I think somebody over here had their
Oh,
hand up.
sorry. Hannah, okay, sir.
Clausen. I think the overall points that you made were very valid, very important. But somehow Hawaii is in an odd situation. And I noticed very clearly that you use the word vulnerability constantly. So Hawaii is in a very difficult situation because you're more the victims. We are the victims. I mean, this is the entire world. That's the economy. It's the cars, the industry all over the world. So Hawaii is not necessarily the big carbon producer. Certainly we do a lot because of cars and some industry, but Hawaii is not the big agent. Rather, we are the victims. Whether this is now man-made or not, but things are changing. So that's my general observation. And my concrete suggestion would be, there's not much we can really do here about changing the environmental impact. But we can do one thing for the next generation. And there's one point that I was really missing, and that's education. I think it's extremely important that the young generation is learning now the data. Of course, we can disagree on some data at some points, but overall the change is happening, and the young generation and the future voters need to know what is happening, and that's what the schools can do much more effectively than all kinds of mitigation, but raising the awareness and raising a new generation that will be able to handle the challenges of the future.
That's exactly correct. In the recommendations, one is to really develop a very comprehensive education and outreach strategy for all of this. And secondly, just along the way, and Lauren was the instigator of this, work with the Department of Education, and that logo that you see there, actually we involved all the high school students who were in this technology and science to help come up with the logos and a competition kind of thing. And they had to learn about the problems first. They couldn't just, they had to research it and write a paper and then come up with a project, whether, so
Yeah.
exactly.
What school does this come from?
They do this technical educational classes for children, or for kids who kind of know what path they kind of want to go on, whether it's like business or cooking, or in this case it was graphic design, and I think, yeah, similar things like that, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. There was Big Island schools involved.
Yeah, this program runs across all islands, so Big Island schools, Maui, Kauai, and Oahu all participated.
Okay.
I'm actually really surprised that this came up so quickly, but I think it's what the portent for the future is. I think Lauren's probably the youngest, and the Kiki over here, and we're in our peers, right? We're amongst our peers. So what I wanted to do was share with this group what Lauren so graciously said that could even be on the website, is that reaching out to the young people is extremely important. In a drama class at the university in spring, a young man from, 20 years old, from the Marshall Islands did a presentation for his final exam. I made a copy of it for all of you. It has Atol's picture here, and then his own picture is on it as well. So it puts a kind of human face on what the young people will be thinking. So I wanted to share this. The science is extraordinarily insightful and important, and now the human story of it as well. So if I may, I brought copies for everybody. And thank you for inviting that possibility. Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
We need the young ones to be
Because
part of
that's who
it.
I'm concerned with, too.
Can I see a show of hands of people who would like to speak?
Would like to what?
Speak?
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay. Let's go with the question, and then we can. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not here to make a statement. What is the percentage of the contribution to the carbon load from Hawaii Island, and what is made on Hawaii or Hawaiian Islands, and what is imported?
Oh, compared to the rest of the state?
I meant the state of Hawaii.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So the state of Hawaii contribution, homemade,
Yeah.
what we're importing, that has to do with that measurement we're looking at, the observatory on Mauna Loa.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an answerable question?
I don't know the answer to that, but it's something our climate
Very small.
commission. It's no doubt
Well,
small.
it's
but-
very, I think you could calculate it if you looked at
population, and you know, they've averaged out what everybody's carbon footprint is, but it's not that simple because depending on where you live and who you are, you have a different carbon footprint. So,
Well, there's some big carbon footprints on these islands that are non-essential. So, the other question was Article 32. Was Article 32 funded? Was the funding associated with the article?
you mean Act 32? Act 32?
Yeah, actually, Act 32.
Was it, and the question again?
Funding was associated with, was there funding associated with ACT?
Yes, there is some.
Can you tell me what the total amount of funding was and how it's going to be budgeted?
The initial Act 83 was, came with funding, and that's basically, you know, what we've, you know, money that we're paying to the consultant and some to UH to get the report done. And then this new Act 32 came with funding, not very much, but like $40,000 a year. And then it also came with a position. So it's enabling us to hire a climate coordinator to help assist the Climate Commission.
What is the impact going to be on the $10 billion rail?
I better not say anything about that.
Okay, the person behind you.
It's going down the wrong road.
There's a gentleman.
Yeah, we're good.
There's
We're
a
good.
gentleman.
Yes. Okay. I just simply want to point out that, you know, the first I heard of the climate warming thing was maybe 10, 15 years ago. And they're talking, oh, it's going to happen in 50, 60, 70 years. But what we really got to watch out for, if the peat starts burning, then we got a problem. This afternoon on PDS, the peat has dried out in Greenland and it's starting to burn. So,
Yep, I saw that.
Two things. Waikoloa is misspelled on the map.
Oh, thank you.
It's not Kaloa, it's Koloa. It's an O. Waikoloa. I just drove through the sign.
Thank you.
And I saw
Thank
it,
you.
so I know that's how they
That's
call
why
it.
it's draft.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, good. Number two, I want to ask Brad. The other islands have fringing reefs and we don't. Does that affect the passive flooding?
Passive flooding does not account for wave action. It's just a still water level being raised along the coastal topography. It's kind of a hypothetical high tide level. In reality, our water is not still, of course. There's wave action going on, but in the model, it's modeling a still water level up along the coastal topography. So that is why we went to modeling erosion and wave run up, and unfortunately don't have that for the model for that big island, for the big island yet. We have it for Kauai, Oahu, and Maui, but it's a bit of a shortcoming with that passive flooding model and why we've gone to other modeling.
I wanted to piggyback onto the education thing. My name is Marilee Wallace. I'm with the Environmental Caucus for the state. I've been working with a group called the Verb Garden Children, and these are grade school age children who probably will be alive at the end of the century and are going to be left with whatever we bequeath to them, and they're aware of that. These are 7, 8, 9-year-olds, and they're getting up to microphones and speaking to audiences of 200 adults.
Wonderful.
To explain their passion about the prospect of being left with whatever our decisions are. And these are kids who are empowered to speak at microphones to adults. So I'm just very enthused that we've got that going on here.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the parents listen to the kids. So that's important.
I'm a resident here in Wakeuka, and I have one horse, one cow. Very small operation, but I've noticed when I go to the feed stores, the main livestock feed stores are along low-lying areas, very close to the water. 2 of them, all privately owned, one further up the highway, but I'm thinking now with the drainage problems and all, maybe not real close to the coast. So it's an observation and a concern. You know, what is an effective way for me as a citizen to, should I talk to the owners? Should, you know, what's what's an effective way to make use of that observation and that concern? It would affect a lot of animals and owners.
I think one thing would be that, you know, the report is coming out, and maybe all of you can help in whatever capacity or organizations you work in to make people aware of the report, make people aware of the website that they can go to. And then there are, you know, we will be coming out, Brad and I are also working on another project to help in the community development planning process, help provide guidance for people to think about how to use the results of this work in planning. You know, maybe there's ways initially of raising some structures in the interim, but you know, it's something that's going to have to be done community by community, in phases, probably looking at, you know, short-term solutions and maybe longer-term adaptation options. So I think we're starting to get this information, hopefully will be kind of the baseline to start this conversation in a much more tangible way, because we have something on a map that we can start looking at, and we can start planning with, and we're going to be encouraging people to plan with.
I just want to thank you for this presentation and all the work you've done. I think it's terrific. And education is obviously huge. I don't think it's just important for kids. I think it's important for 75-year-olds such as myself, because I think there's an urgency here that is already affecting us from what I've seen of the trailers of Inconvenient Truth. This is not a future concern. This is already happening and has been happening. So I guess what I'm groping for, as a result of the last election and the result of our pullout from the Paris Agreement, where do we turn for direction, since we can't turn to the White House and all those appointees? And one source that I'm encouraged by, and I want to share, is that there is a group in the House of Representatives called the Climate Solutions Caucus. It now has 52 members. It's bipartisan. You can't join it as a Democrat unless you come in with a Republican. And they are already influential in passing or defeating climate-denying amendments. Right? You can look that up. To support the Climate Solutions Caucus, there is a citizens group called the Citizens Climate Lobby, CCL. It's a national group of people that are groping to try to find a way out of this dilemma that we face. And there's going to be a chapter forming here in Hilo in September. And I encourage people to Google that, and maybe we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a state alliance developing that I don't have a lot of information on that. I've just kind of been sort of hearing about it, like, you know, California, Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, I think New York, and a few other states are forming climate resiliency alliances. So that's really good to hear. I didn't realize, I wasn't aware of what was going on in the House of Representatives. That's very good to know that.
DLNR is a state agency and answers to, and the current governor seems to, having an engineering background, seems to work more closely and understand the sustainability issues and the infrastructures needed for that. My question is, has the state of Hawaii and/or your department reached out to places like the Netherlands, the Dutch, who have battled the sea and water for generations, hundreds of years? The Japanese have also gone along the same lines, and it's not reinventing anything. They have knowledge of how to do things and how to reapportion land and move things.
That's a good observation, and that's solid advice. And trust me, whenever I whenever I run into somebody that, like an engineer from the Netherlands, or somebody who's studied the Netherlands, I grab them, and I'm like, tell me what's going on there, tell me everything. And it's freaking fascinating. Excuse my French, I'm sorry. It's fascinating.
Yes.
And they're willing to pay the taxes to do it.
Yeah.
And I might add that, our company is an international company, it's a large company, and we have a lot of folks that are working on this that are also have been involved in redevelopment and rebuilding after Sandy and planning and different problem areas around the country. So we're also, it's good to look to other countries, but it's also good to see how things might work within our U.S. context too. So we're trying to learn as much as we can from others so we don't reinvent the wheel.
Okay, wait, this fella back here hasn't asked a question yet or made a comment.
As you concretize more of these areas that flooding or flood prone are going to be inundated, are you going to cause the insurers to bail out as uninsurable property? Is the state going to step in with some sort of insurance vehicle to help out and assist in that? Because I know the corporations, if you give them a map that says this is 100% flood zone, they're not going to insure it unless you force them to.
First step is we have flood zones now where people must have flood insurance. So one step is to also work towards overlaying this larger flood zone into our system, at least.
From the map, it's not a flood zone, it's ocean.
Well,
I think it's the distinction between.
So
we're
those properties that are now, according to the map, instead of a warehouse on the dock, it's now open.
There's a lot of different mechanisms, and in the report we're exploring those in a recommendation on the funding and incentives. There's different kinds of transfer of development rights, there's types of buyout programs, there's a lot of different things, and they're all being explored in different parts of the country. It's kind of still new, you know what I mean? So we just want to put forth, here are some of the things that are being thought through so that we can start figuring out what it would take for us.
It's a chicken and egg thing. It's like, look, if people agree that this is happening, and I'm not saying everybody does, but if theoretically people agree this is really going to happen, I really have a hard time not identifying that and being transparent about it. Because if you don't, and it is happening, it doesn't matter. Everybody's going to pay or lose in the end anyway. So the idea is to get out in front of it, and maybe we can find a way to manage it better or reduce the effects that might occur as compared to if we didn't do anything. I mean, no one has the silver bullet, right? No one has the crystal ball. But we're just trying to do the right thing and follow the lead of a lot of other places that are trying to do the same thing. Good question, though. Sir, in the back.
And in your big circle there of all the things, I didn't see anything in there about carbon.
That's because this is about adaptation. The sea level rise report is about vulnerability to sea level rise and adaptation to sea level rise. It's not about carbon mitigation. But having said that, for instance, one of the recommendations about prioritizing smart urban redevelopment actually has a carbon reduction footprint component of it. So if we develop differently, where we can reduce the amount of cars traveling to and from work and have better transportation, you can reduce. But this particular report is not focused on the mitigation part. That's something that the commission will now be taking up. Because remember, this Act 32 that got passed added mitigation into the mix. It wasn't there when we started.
So when you talk about mitigation, you're talking about some way of reducing
Carbon
production.
Carbon footprint.
We have the dirtiest producing machines, pollution machines on this island. We have 31,000 operations a year of the dirtiest pollution producing machines on this island.
Which one?
I'm talking about non-essential. In other words, they don't need to be here producing this pollution. Does everybody want to know what it is? We have 31,000 operations a year. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is #1 in the nation for this impact. They're not needed, not essential. It's called poor helicopters.
Yes, I'll go for that.
They are the dirtiest machines on this island, producing pollution. They are the biggest impact to the quality of life of people on this island. They make our life miserable, and they're causing a great impact to our carbon footprint, and they're non-essential. Can you take care of that for us?
Is there a place that a person could submit testimony or opinions that didn't come to this meeting?
I suggest people go to our website, and there's contact information on our website, you know, email kind of stuff.
Is there anyone that they should send it to?
It's me. All right. My information, it's on the website. So if you just scroll down to the bottom of the website, it'll have all my contact information there. I can leave you my card after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you adequately funded, and what can you do to help?
Please. Where to submit.
Oh, you know it?
Both correctly.
You know, if you're ever gonna, you know, help us by, you know, just trying to educate, you know, talk to people about this presentation we did tonight. You know, take every opportunity you can to educate people, even, you know, youth, 75-year-olds, I'm getting there too. But, and then, you know, when opportunities come up for like specific help, certainly people's, you know, people's support doesn't hurt. You're never adequately funded, but you know what? Sometimes it's really not about the funding, it's about the people. You know, if you want to really do something, you just do it and you find the money. You can have all the money in the world, and as you all know, you may not get anything accomplished, or you can have less money and have motivated people and get a lot of stuff accomplished. So appreciate the comment though.
Hawaii County Civil Defense, but I want to say they did a good job in July to tell people about the king tide. Because I went down and the road to Richardson's was flooding, but they didn't have detours. So people were driving right through the flooded road. And then Coconut Island was also flooded, the roadways. So I mean, you know, it's already happening with the king tide.
I made a comment about this, that I think during the peak of those king tides, we were seeing like a 10-inch anomaly.
Yeah.
You know what? That's almost a foot.
It was.
So,
it looked like a foot by Richardson's.
Right.
We drove through it on rental cars.
We're looking into the crystal
I
ball.
wouldn't then drive through with my regular car.
Right. We're looking into the crystal ball, you know, regarding what sea level rise really looks like. You're seeing it when you have these anomalies. It comes and goes. It's not the permanent chronic flooding that you're going to see in the future, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. And right now, I just want to let you know, it seems like we're in a little bit of an uptake again in the king tide. So keep your eyes peeled over the next few days. On the weekend, there could be some flooding going on. Yeah. Take a look. Let's go with ma'am.
Near where the king tide was, down here by the gardens. That area is going to be developed, or plans to be developed for a major convention and tourist center. And the elevation, I don't think warrants that development. Now that I look at your maps, I just drove through there today, and it's beautiful if it never changes. It's right there.
I want to get this report.
Recommendation number 2.
We're on schedule to get this report out early next year. You know what? It's out. At that point, it's out, and you know the cat's out of the bag, and you know a lot of
But we did present today
And we
to
go
the
to the
county
meetings
directors,
about it.
and go to the meetings, and then you can, and, you know, we made that same pitch here. I said, go look at what's on your books right now. If there's something new
Yeah.
that's being developed,
It's huge.
take a look where it is.
Sir?
It's right there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of political stuff behind all the issues we discussed tonight. And there are a lot of people who might deny global warming and all that implies. And particularly our own government is denying that. So where would we have the natural partner? And the odd thing is, it's the military. If you think about what the military is doing, I don't know the details, but in Oahu, they are preparing for a rising sea level, big time. And they have the best data, and they are well funded, and they come from directly from the government, and they speak directly against our president. So they are your natural.
They declared it a national security issue.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's what it is.
Absolutely. Globally.
I think it was House Resolution 179 that was introduced that would have not allowed the Department of Defense to include climate change as part of their vulnerability, right? That was an amendment that was introduced by Republicans. And fortunately, fortunately, the Climate Solution Caucus, there was, I think, 40-something Republicans voted that amendment down. And that was largely as a result of this Climate Solutions Caucus, which is in the House. So, you know, I'm encouraged. Yeah.
Well, because the military has to be pragmatic.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Does anybody, any more like, you know, short questions or stuff we could answer quickly? Any sort of like process needs, or just right now, anything at all?
Yeah, over here.
I just had a question. What recommendations are you making? I mean, tourism is the main driver, economic driver in our state. What recommendations are you making to the hotels in Waikiki? Because the beaches are completely getting eroded.
Oh, yeah.
So how are we to save those?
Well, you know, as Sam mentioned, we're not making specific recommendations to an area. Oh, you should do this. But we are saying, if an area has an economic value that is essential, or a purpose, or some like critical infrastructure that you cannot live without, you'll need to think about protecting some of these resources, some of this infrastructure. So, you know, Waikiki will have to take a look at how it will go forward. It's not, yeah, it may be redesigned as floodable, you know, like you're right, like Venice, yeah. We have gondolas.
A lot of people are talking about
You know, the main thing is to promote innovative thinking.
Thank you.